I accidentally caught my wife in a small lie that kept unraveling on her, and now I'm pretty sure she's having an affair. Posted by u/miserable debate 7438. A few months ago, I installed a security camera outside our front door primarily for safety, prompted by a shooting in our neighborhood. It wasn't installed out of suspicion towards my wife. About a week ago, my wife came home from work and casually mentioned taking public transit, which is a common mode of transport for her, along with occasional Uber rides if she works very late. I didn't think anything of it at the time. The next day, while reviewing the camera footage, I was looking to see if a package was dropped off. I saw the video of her arrival from the previous night. The camera captures our front door and part of the street. It showed her walking up to the door, pausing to look across the street, smiling and waving as a car pulled away, and then entering the house. It strongly suggested she had been dropped off. I casually asked her if she had taken an Uber home the night before. She initially insisted she had taken transit. When I mentioned the camera footage, she shifted, suggesting maybe it was an Uber and she had forgotten. Sensing something was off, I jokingly asked if she typically waved goodbye to Uber drivers from our doorstep as they waited for her to get inside. This led to further hesitation before she finally admitted it was a coworker. The coworker is a man she has previously mentioned in passing when talking about work or a project she is involved in, who had dropped her off after they both worked late. Naturally, I felt really off. Her story went from transit to maybe Uber. I forgot to actually, a coworker. I asked if that was the first time he dropped her off. She said yes. I pointed out how unusual it seemed to forget being dropped off for the very first time by a coworker, especially when it wasn't her usual routine. This is when she became defensive, accusing me of calling her a liar and claiming it was just an honest mistake due to being tired. While I tried to accept this, I couldn't shake the feeling that her reaction and multiple explanations were illogical. Unable to let it go, I reviewed the camera footage from the week prior. What I discovered: she had been dropped off by the same car multiple times that week alone. Expanding my search to the past month's recordings, as they reset monthly, I found this scenario repeated 2 to 3 times a week. I also discovered instances where the same car picked her up in the morning, specifically on days when I had left for work early. I confronted her again, stating that the footage showed frequent occurrences of her being dropped off by the same car. She looked like a deer in headlights when I said that. She downplayed it again, saying it was just her coworker and I was making a big deal out of nothing. I explained that the hiding and lying about it were what was concerning, not necessarily the act of being dropped off. Why the secrecy if it was innocent? She became defensive again, attempting to turn it back on me by suggesting my checking the footage was obsessive and paranoid. After an hour-long argument, she finally agreed that yeah, it was weird, I guess that she hadn't mentioned it. I asked her directly if there was anything romantic or inappropriate going on with this coworker. She denied it, calling me crazy. We have an open phone policy, though I've never felt the need to use it until this point. I asked to see her phone, and she handed it over. I looked through messages and found nothing that seemed suspicious or indicative of an affair with this coworker. Despite this, I still have trouble believing her. Her initial lies, the shiftiness, the attempt to blame me for being suspicious, and the eventual half-admission have eroded my trust. I also noticed that since the day I found out about the coworker dropping her off, the coworker has completely stopped dropping her off or picking her up, based on the camera footage. To me, this looks like she warned him or tipped him off on my suspicions, maybe even meeting further away from the house where the camera can't see. I can't let this go, but I am also confused because, outside of this specific issue and her weird behavior when confronted, I haven't noticed the typical signs associated with infidelity. She isn't secretive with her phone, she hasn't become distant, and her general behavior hasn't changed in ways that would make me question her fidelity. We are both incredibly busy with demanding jobs and a 3-year-old and 1-year-old who keep us on our toes, which naturally limits our time together as a couple, but there hasn't been a shift in our dynamic that raised red flags before this. I feel like I'm going insane, and I am really struggling to find a logical explanation for this behavior that does not lead to the conclusion that she is cheating on me. I can't discuss this with friends without feeling like I'm making her look bad. I'm turning to anonymous help, hoping for some perspective on whether my reaction is warranted or if I'm letting paranoia take over. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Woman here. So yes, this is strange. There are a few possibilities. 1. She legit forgot, highly unlikely. 2. She and/or he may have a crush, and she enjoys his attention, so she's feeling a twinge of guilt about it because she knows it's not right, most likely. She likes having a little secret because, well, secrets are wrong but exciting. 3. They are both interested in each other and may have become involved, although for now, it doesn't seem this way. Personally, I do not think it's appropriate for her to be alone with this coworker. This is how most affairs start, at work, in the neighborhood, or between friends. She should not have kept that from you, and she certainly should not have lied about it. That right there is a red flag. While you can't force her to stop, you can have a serious conversation with her. Maybe even ask to meet this coworker. See what she says. Ops response. Thank you for your input, this makes sense. I would not think it is appropriate for her to spend so much time alone being picked up and dropped off at home by this individual, whom I've never met. I think it is highly disrespectful to me. During our last conversation, I mentioned that the next time he drops her off, he should come in and greet me, as that would be the respectful thing to do. She said she'd make sure he does. It's been a week, though, and she hasn't mentioned him picking her up or dropping her off, confirmed by footage. I will ask her again about it. Commenter 2. When you looked at the messages, did you see messages between them arranging the pickups? Because if there was nothing, it just means they are communicating in secret. Ops response. Nope, nothing. She said that when it happens, they agree the night before, while they're working together, on what time he'll pick her up in the morning. Commenter 2. Alright, I call bullcrap. There's no way they are close enough to give rides but not text. They are cheating. Commenter 3. Not even a I'm running 10 minutes late text? What about with her other close coworkers? Surely they communicate by text occasionally? Ops response. From what I briefly saw while I browsed her phone, their messaging is strictly professional. There are a lot of calls between them, but also between her and her other colleagues. Nothing stands out with him from what I saw in the call logs and messages. Commenter 4. What reason did she give for her deception? Ops response. She didn't think it was important to mention so as not to cause unnecessary concern for me. I pointed out that it's ridiculous and makes me sound unreasonable, when I knew she worked late with this person and other male coworkers in the past and knew they would occasionally all eat lunch together, and I never once said anything to suggest I had any issues with that. But she knows I would not be okay with a male coworker repeatedly giving her rides to and from work. Update 13 hours later. This morning, she had a later start to her day. This is not unusual, so I left for work before her. But after dropping the kids off at childcare, instead of driving to work, I came back home and parked farther up the street to avoid being seen. When she eventually left the house, she walked up the street and turned onto the main road where she usually catches public transit. I followed at a distance and saw her getting into his car, which was parked there. Up until then, I had held on to hope that she might have felt uncomfortable about these pickups/drop-offs after our conversation and that she might have found a way to politely end them. But now, seeing her deliberately walk around the corner to meet his car, out of view of our camera, has confirmed that, at the very least, my wife is actively collaborating with another man to conceal their interactions from me, her husband. A faithful partner would never need to do something like this. I am heartbroken and shaking with rage, but I won't say anything to her. I am going to hire a PI to find out the full extent of their relationship and then proceed from there. Thank you to everyone who offered their advice. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Exactly what I said to do. You should have driven past and seen how they interacted. Could you see if they kissed or anything upon meeting? Ops response. I couldn't see from where I was watching. They drove into traffic, and I was too angry to follow. Commenter 2. Do not confront prematurely. Confront with confidence, with a plan, after consulting an attorney. If you confront with any doubts, she will turn the tables on you, gaslight you, manipulate you, darvo you. Get the evidence you need, and a solid, well-researched and advised plan, so that you can proceed with initiative. Second update 4 hours later. I wanted to share that I have confirmed the affair. I waited outside her office building and saw her leave around 12:30 p.m. with him. They went across the street to get food, then drove to a nearby park and stayed in his car. They ate lunch and chatted, laughed, and made out. Not just kissed, they sat in the car and made out like effing teenagers. I took a video. Then, they left and went back to work. I don't know how I stopped myself from approaching them and attacking him then and there. The thought of doing something rash and losing my children is probably what stopped me. I am now home and struggling to process what I saw. I feel completely devastated and a profound sense of loss for our family, our children's sense of security, and my own self-worth. I have never felt so completely hopeless in my life before. I will keep it together and move forward for the sake of my children because they are innocent in all of this. I am currently contacting divorce attorneys and scheduling initial consultations. I do not plan to confront my wife about what I saw until I am advised by an attorney. I will keep my distance until then. The volume of responses and attention my posts have received is incredibly overwhelming. While I am grateful for the support, reading comments and different opinions while processing the betrayal is too much right now. I will delete my account but will leave my posts up so I can review the advice later when I am in a calmer headspace. At this moment, I am unable to make significant decisions and will rely on legal advice from an attorney to guide me through the next steps. Thank you to everyone who offered support and advice. Editor's note. True to his word, Op deleted his account sometime after his last update and will no longer be able to post further updates. It's possible he'll make a new throwaway months later, once the divorce is finalized.